Ladies and gentlemen, now our Chief Executive just delivered his policy address, and now he attends the press conference. And please start asking questions. The lady in a pink shirt. Dear Chief Executive, I am from TDM Macau. As for public housing, you mentioned next year you will restart application for social housing, providing 4,000 units. So where are these 4,000 units to be built? And also for the Mong Ha social housing scheme, is it going to be affected? Thank you very much for your question. For the Mong Ha project, as you all know, the Court of Final Appeal had already given the verdict. The SAR government would adhere to the decision of the Court of Final Appeal. Of course, that would involve some delay for the implementation of the verdict. And the other question you ask, and that is next year we will reopen application for social housing. It is true. And within this term of government, the Secretary for Transport and Public Work and myself have expressed to the public of Macau that we are going to reopen application for social housing. And various construction projects are going on. And that includes the plan and also Zone A. We are going to build 28,000 housing units in Zone A. As you all know, another Wai Long project is also going on. The gentleman on the second row, on the third row actually. Mr. Chief Executive, I'm from Shenhua Yaobao. And in your policy address, you talk about regional cooperation and integrate Macau into the overall development plan of our nation. Macau is a cosmopolitan city. As you promote this Greater Bay Area development, what is the SLR government going to do in the next 2 years? And how about cooperation related to tourism development and cooperation? We are very happy that we got support from the Central People's Government. As you know that we attach great importance to regional cooperation, and also through regional cooperation, we can adequately diversify our economy and achieve sustainable development. As for regional cooperation, with the support from the central government, we have taken part in various regional cooperation plans, including the Pan-Pearl River Delta development, the Greater Bay Area development. Greater Bay Area includes non-cities, including Macau. We actively take part in this cooperation, and now we are waiting for the overall plan for the Greater Bay Area, and we actively integrate ourselves into the plan. We have also done some preliminary work. We feel we express gratitude towards our central government. As the Chief Executive of Macau SAR, I am also in the steering committee that directly involved in the work in a task force. And the task force will actively take part in all aspects of the cooperation. We have already visited all the non-cities, and the non-cities have sat together several times to discuss the project. And in the policy address I delivered today, I've already released some of the plans that include Zhongshan, Jiangmen. So once our plan is released, we will very quickly throw ourselves heart and soul into the project. The lady on the third row. I'm from Simon Daily. Chief Executive, the new land law has been implemented for a while, and the government has taken back some of the idle land. And some criticize that in terms of accountability, the system is not entirely fair. So about this kind of injustice, some of the injustice, as you implement the new land law, within your term of office, are you going to resolve them? And some of the court cases will involve the CCAC. And so does it mean that you will hand the ball to CCAC? And is there a timetable? And first of all, I need to clarify. My job is not about handing over balls. My job is to designate work to my subordinate, to various units. So why this time I got CCAC involved? That's because CCAC actually handles administrative irregularity. And for this project, its implementation of the new land law, it's important to get CCAC involved. There are lots of opinions from the public. I say that all the lands that had been given to developers, once they're not developed within 25 years, then we have to claim back the land based in accordance with law. And this time, the way we do it, there are two focuses. First, we very much hope to actually show justice, social justice, and that is why CCAC will review every case. And during the administrative procedure, if there is any irregularity, and that is one of the means of upholding justice, and we have to review whether there's any inadequate practice during the process. And the other thing also involved independent investigation. I think the fact will tell everything. If there is any injustice in our administrative procedure, CCAC will give us their recommendation. And I make this decision that after receiving lots of opinions, as a government that adopts a responsible position, we will take on all the responsibilities. Mr. Chief Executive, I'm from Asia Satellite. As for the gaming license, as the government has got any intention of renewing the current licenses to 2022, if you do have the intention of doing that, can you actually justify it with the current legal framework? And first of all, today at the policy address, and after interim review, we are handling the issue. By 2022, four licenses will expire and 2 will expire in 2020. Those expire in 2020, we are studying how to handle them. We are already implementing relevant work, and we are going to release details in due course. And now from 2020 to 2022, still we have time. And as for how to justify it based on current legal framework, we will also release all the details in due course. The Portuguese journalist on the second row. I am from TDM, Jose Costa Santos. And just now you mentioned about public security education. It's going to be compulsory course in schools, in local schools. And so at what stage is that going to be implemented? In what year is that going to be taught? And that is our overall education plan, that within our education system, we are going to introduce public security so that students can have this kind of knowledge. The next question. The lady on the second row. I am from Lotus Cable TV. As we all know, the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge has already come into operation for a while, and we have listened to public opinion. And for example, supporting facilities from the Macau side is not adequate. And also it takes a long time to get on to the public transportation. And the place is and the custom control is quite crowded. So any method to resolve that. And actually, the bridge has only come into operation very recently, and Mr. Rosario has already explained that it takes time for us to observe, and we found out our shortcomings and try to seek improvement. And just now, you already say the SAR government need to do something to improve the situation. We will. And as for solving the transport problem, we need to, and how about traffic congestion, we will also work on plans to resolve that. And the Secretary for Transport and Public Work already with his team working on it. And the lady in the back row. Mr. Chief Executive, I'm from Hong Kong Daily. We can see that in the policy address, we try to promote Macau and integrate Macau into Pampa River Delta development. We want to know whether you have any concrete plan. And as for the light rail system, it looks like the work on Taipa is not completed yet. So when will Macau's light rail system be integrated into our nation's high-speed rail? Actually, Greater Bay Area within our nation's overall plan. Integration is very important, and China's high-speed rail is a very important means of transportation in China. So we will do preliminary study and see how Macau's light rail system be integrated and connected to China's high-speed rail. There are various options, and we are going to study that. And Macau's light rail Taipa district, Taipa Port, will come into operation next year. And the lady in the back row. Mr. Chief Executive, I'm from Macau Daily, and you once promised that you are going to set up a mechanism to share the surplus. And so are you going, and now the work partaking scheme already amount to 10,000 per person. Is it going to pose pressure for the next term of government? And what is about the principle is about we build Macau together and we share the wealth we have gained. And as we have surplus, we should share the gain with the public, with all the citizens. And if there's no surplus, we cannot talk about sharing the surplus. But we are very happy to see that with the concerted effort of all the Macau people, we have achieved a 40 billion Pataku surplus. So we do have the condition, we do have the means to do this, build, construct Macau together and share wealth. Next year, we are going to review the system. The lady on the front row. Mr. Chief Executive, I'm from TDM Radio. And in your policy address for 2019, you indicate that you will use your performance as a gift to our motherland. So what do you consider as good performance? What do you want to turn Macau into? And how confident you are about gaining outstanding performance in the next year? We very much hope that by the time we fulfill our term of office, we can complete various works, including we have relatively good financial reserve. We also hope that through administrative procedure and judicial procedure and also land reclamation, we can have sufficient land reserve. And now we have 6 long-term mechanisms. We hope that these 6 long-term mechanisms that are important for Macau people's well-being can be consolidated. We also hope that next year, as the new term of government will come into office in 2020, and I can tell you, very happily tell you, we achieve. Well, we hope to fulfill 95%, but then if we look at our track record, we managed to achieve higher than that. We hope to do our very best to hand a good Macau to the next government. If we manage to fulfill all the items on the checklist, we'll be very happy. The Portuguese journalist in the back row. Good afternoon, Almeida from Macau Forum. Just now, Mr. Chief Executive indicated that about the new land law. We're going to study further. Does it mean that the land law will be revised again? We very strictly implement the new land law, and after the law has come into force for a while, we listen to opinions. We have collected lots of opinions, and quite a lot of these opinions are related to administrative procedure. So that is why I am asking CCAC to look into it, to look at cases as we implement the new land law. So we ask CCAC to review the entire administrative procedure, and they will report to me. And now we haven't actually got into revising, the stage of revising the land law. We are looking at cases. Mr. Chief Executive, I'm from Bloomberg News Agency. And about the gaming market, and what is your futuristic prediction? As you know that China's economic growth is slowing down, and VIP room, the revenue is declining. And as you talk about the gaming industry, you always talk about supervision, monitoring, instead of promoting. I think in the last few years, we actively implemented various things, including the interim review, and mostly that is to help us get to the goal of turning Macau into a world-class tourist destination. And we want to see a kind of balance between gaming element and non-gaming element. For our next year, our overall tone is positive, is cautious positive, and also try to consolidate what we have gained and move forward. We hope that in the future, the gaming industry will achieve healthy development, and there will be more non-gaming element. And the ultimate goal is to turn Macau into a world-class tourist destination. The lady on the second row. Good afternoon. I'm from Macau today. Restaurant Macau. Would the government about the trade union law, is the government going to promote it? Workers' union law. The Legislative Assembly, there's been a few debates, and you have seen the result, and we are quite clear about it. For the time being, the government has got no intention of submitting and writing up such a law about trade union. The lady in the back row. Mr. Chief Executive, you talk about next year as just now as you respond to the social housing program that includes the increase of 4,000 units, including Avenida Vai Long and Zone A. Does it mean that application for social housing in the two areas will reopen next year? And there's a long waiting list. You once promised that you're going to build 28,000 units in Zone A. Now we still haven't seen one single unit. Are you going to hand the responsibility to the next term of our government, to the next government? I think we are looking at it from different perspectives. We are in a situation where we have a quite sufficient land reserve and also quite sufficient financial reserve. So I think we have handed quite a good cover to the next government. In the past, land reserve was an issue. However, land resources was an issue. However, after our effort in the last few years, we have enough financial means to support construction of social housing. So we are confident that we are going to be able to reopen application. About Zone A, we have to thank Guangdong province, for example, providing sand for land reclamation. We get support, very immense support from the Guangdong government. And because the supply of sand for land reclamation, it delayed the project, but now Guangdong province has given us tremendous support. And there are also various plans that have already been submitted to the Urban Planning Committee. So that is why in the next few years, construction of social housing will be smooth going, and we will increase supply of social housing, and we can meet the need and fulfill the need of the society and fulfill our promise. And that is one of the priorities of our government. The Portuguese journalist. I'm Galina Dunlova. In the policy address, you say that about gaming license, gaming concession, you are going to listen to opinions, widely consult opinion. Does it mean that within your term of office, you are going to hold public consultation sessions? And as for the gaming license, are you going to leave the problem for the next government to resolve? 6 gaming licenses, 2 will expire in 2020, 4 will be due in 2022. My term of office terminates in December 19th, 2019. So the gaming license renewal actually go beyond my term of office. I cannot do any promise that go beyond my own term of office. What I can do is within my term of office, we do our best to get all the preparation work ready. I'm from Lonson Media. And just now, two journalists asked the question, where will the 4,000 housing units come from? You haven't directly answered the question. So why you say 4,000 units? Where will they come from? So how many housing units is the government constructing for the time being? I think I didn't actually answer the question, but maybe I didn't answer it very clearly. And I answered the question based on our Secretary for Transport and Public Work. And actually, the 2 projects are going on at the same time. I very much hope that both projects will be successfully implemented. But even if only one of them is completed in time, I still will have 4,000 housing units, and they are in Zone A. And you will say which one will complete first, and I will say I believe that the project on Avenida Vailong will complete before the project in Zone A be completed. And I will ask to follow up on one question still about housing. As you all know that property prices rocket high in Macau. It's very difficult for young people to buy their own property. As our state leaders have indicated, that housing is a basic means of living. It's not for speculation. So would the Macau SAR will also follow the practice on the Chinese mainland to implement some tough measures targeted at the private market so that more young people can afford their own property. And actually, this term of office attach great importance to developing social housing, public housing that include financial reserve and also land reserve. We have done pretty well. And so now we do have sufficient land and sufficient financial means to build more social housing units. And I have repeatedly indicated in the private market, yes, the prices are very high. And we are paying close attention to the private market when it's necessary. Of course, the government will do something, releasing tough measures. The government will intervene. The government is closely monitoring keeping an eye on the private market. When it's necessary, we will do something. The gentleman in the front. Mr. Chief Executive, I also want to ask a question related to Shek Pai Wan. Some idle land is still not claimed back by the government. So why this idle land in Shek Pai Wan still have not been claimed back? And do you have an actual timetable for claiming back idle land that developers did not develop on time? So are you going to leave, or are you going to leave the problem to the next government? It's difficult to give you a definite answer because as we claim back this idle land, we need to go through administrative means first, and then after when administrative means cannot resolve that, we have to enter judiciary procedure. But judiciary procedure is not exactly something that the SAR government can handle. We will do our very best, and I hope that through the new land law, we can claim back the idle land not developed by developers on time in accordance with law. Mr. Chief Executive, I'm Mad Mulder from TDM Radio. And just now, it said that your term of office is till 2019 December. And have you got any idea about the candidates for the next chief executive? Thank you very much for your question. This term of office, do our very best and in accordance with relevant laws, and next year elect the new chief executive. However, till now, no one has approached me, and also I cannot speculate who is going to be the next chief executive. I believe, and I will say, the next chief executive will be elected in accordance with law. The lady in the front, I'm from Lake Bo. And I look at the report. It says that new about land, about claiming back idle land, you will hand in accordance with the new land law. You are going to hand it to CCAC. So it doesn't mean that within your term of office you are not going to revise the land law. As I said, I have already told the CCAC to review our administrative procedure as we implement the new land law. Whether we are going to revise the law, I cannot say that for the time being because I'm still waiting for the report from CCAC. So now I cannot make assumptions. And I cannot say whether we are going to revise the law or not. I need to wait till I see the report. And this report is going to be released to the public. Mr. Chief Executive, and just now you mentioned that for renewal of gaming license, and that is not within your term of office, but you are going to do your best to do all the preparation work. It doesn't mean that within your term of office you will do your very best to complete drafting the tendering procedure or even start some public consultation work. And also we have already done something, for example, the interim review. We also have reviewed how to turn Macau into what's the best thing to do to turn Macau into a world-class tourist destination and how to ensure healthy development of gaming industry. And the other thing we care about is employment opportunity for locals. The other thing is competition. And all these need to be taken into consideration as we make the preparation work. And very important work ought to be put into law revision. And the last question, absolutely the last question. Mr. Chief Executive, and just now you mentioned Macau in the next year will continue to release some allowance, subsidy. So are you worried the Macau society will become a society that over-dependent on subsidies, allowance from the government? Thank you very much for your question. And first of all, we are going to adhere to the Macau Basic Law, and that is to spend as we look at our coffer and make sure that there is a balance between income and expenditure. We also need to adhere to the principle of building Macau and sharing what we gain together. And very importantly, we need to build a long-term mechanism that gives Macau people long-term protection. And at the same time, we need to maintain competition to keep ourselves competitive for future development. So about sharing our wealth with Macau public, these are all within our budget, and we will not derive from the principle. We will adhere to the principle of being self-sufficient. In the last year, at least if we look at our balance sheet, we have got a surplus of 40 billion patakas, and that is very healthy. In 2017, we got surplus of 45 billion. Financial reserve till 2018 September, we have over 500 billion for financial reserve, and foreign currency reserve, we have more than 100 billion. So for the next year, we are going to consolidate what we have gained and seek steady development. And even for a housing project, this time of office, we do have the confidence that we can fulfill the need and complete the projects because we have the financial means. We also have the land reserve. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and I announce the conclusion of today's press conference. Thank you very much, Mr. Chief Executive. Thank you very much, friends from the media.